Good afternoon. My name is David Newmark. I am the president of Summit International Flooring. We are based in Whippany, New Jersey. Today we are having an episode of Summit Live again, where we have a very special guest, Ryan Langlois, who's the design director at Monogram BBGM, based in Scottsdale, Arizona. Ryan's been in the hospitality design business for many years, 20 some odd years at this point. He's worked all over the world, inclusive of Singapore and London. And somehow, some way, he found his way back to the United States, working in Scottsdale. Before I introduce Ryan, let me introduce you to my coworker, my good friend, and our national sales manager, Mark Becker.
Hi, everyone.
And with that, let's Mark, as always, by the way, it's great to have you. And with that, let's bring in Ryan from Arizona. Ryan, welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen. It's good to see you. Nice to be here.
Well, we thank you very much for being here. We just learned that we're your first live stream.
Well, you're not supposed to tell everyone that. I'm supposed to be very, zen and meditative, but
well,
now you're on the spot.
Now, yeah, I told you less than a minute ago. We don't know where it's going to go once we get started. But anyway, welcome aboard. I guess what I'm going to ask you right off the bat is, why the interior design business? What brought you into it? What got you interested?
Well, that's a good question. I actually started when I was in school. I was convinced I was going to be an art teacher. That's absolutely what I wanted to do with my life. And then I went to LSU and I was at orientation, signing up for classes. And the young lady that was leading the group orientation was an interior design student. And she said, you're in the College of Design and my degree is going to be interior design. And a light bulb went off and I just said, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. I was working in restaurants at the time and really liking it. It was just a job as a waiter, but I sort of found it all very interesting. And I changed my career right then and there and signed up for the major. And that's what got me started. And I never looked back. Actually, I've really enjoyed it ever since. I just think there's something fascinating about the profession, and I've really enjoyed the journey.
Ryan, we've focused on different segments of the market on each of our Summit Live shows. I don't think we've really focused on the hospitality segment. Did you pick that from your restaurant days, or how did you fall into that part how did you fall into that arena?
So that's an even better story. I completed my degree and I went to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. That's where I was raised and that's where LSU is. And when it was time to graduate, we had taken a glass trip up to Washington, D.C., and I just fell in love with it. And I knew after graduation, I wanted to leave the South. I was tired of the heat, tired of the humidity. Most people from Louisiana, a lot of us go to Texas, and a lot of us go to Georgia, to Atlanta, sort of the next bigger cities. I decided DC was the place for me. And so I went up and did interviews for a week over spring break and landed a job with a company called Ellerby Beckett, which isn't around anymore, been bought up by AECom, as many have. Right. And I got started doing healthcare design, actually. That was my first job. And I did that for a few years and then moved into corporate interiors. And through some connections and past peers, I was given the opportunity to join a really terrific firm in DC working on one-off restaurant concepts. And that really launched my hospitality career. I didn't look back after doing those kind of projects. I love to go out and eat. I love to travel. I love to explore. Doing hospitality design is an amazing intersection then between my passions for life and my passions for work. And so when you can have that opportunity to combine those two things, I think it's just a career made in heaven as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I have to tell you that we have a couple of things in common. Number one being we like to eat. That's for sure. And I've got to tell you, I know a little bit about your neck of the woods. Not that I've spent any time in Baton Rouge, but I certainly know a little bit about New Orleans and Louisiana. So listen, so you end up in Washington, D.C. You work there for X amount of years. Something after what, 20 or so years brings you to Singapore. So I learned. What was that?
So I was in DC for about 14 years working and growing from the restaurant design. And then I moved into sort of limited service hotels. Then it was full service hotels. I was working briefly as kind of a remote worker for a company in Las Vegas that was doing a project in Palm Springs, Florida. And I was doing construction and administration, which I really love. And I was flying every week from DC to Florida to check on this project. And it was really great. And that was the first kind of luxury project that I got my teeth into. So my partner and I decided, you know, I've been in DC for 14 years. We wanted to explore the world. We actually thought we were going to go to Seattle. And we like to joke that we shot over Seattle and made our way all the way over to Asia. We looked and did kind of Goldilocks and the Three Bears of the world. We said, well, South America looks really good, but I don't speak Spanish, so that wouldn't work. Europe was too hard to get a visa, so maybe that's not a good idea. China just seemed way overwhelming, so that couldn't work. And then I would admit, in true American fashion, we found Singapore, which I would never have found on a map beforehand. But we researched it, and it's an amazing city, an amazing democracy, very structured, very stable. English is a default language. There's a tremendous amount of hospitality design resources there and talent. Major hotel groups are headquartered there to work the rest of Asia. And we went out and we struck just at a right time. Again, we went out for a week and I did interviews. I ended up having 4 interviews and walked away with 2 job offers. I was super, lucky, and joined up a company there. And even though we're not there anymore, I have to say that after 5 years working in Asia, around Southeast Asia, a little bit of China, India, half my heart is still very much in that region. I absolutely loved it.
How long have you been back in the States?
So I've been back in the States now for about just 3 months or so.
Cool.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. After Singapore, though, I heard you went to London.
Correct. So we were in Singapore for about 5 years, really loving it. And then my partner got a job transfer that got him into London. And it just so happened that that particular visa he was awarded through his corporate company allowed the spouse to come over without a visa sponsorship. That's like a golden ticket, if you will. So I could go over to Europe and work in London anywhere that I wanted to without needing an additional sponsorship. And that was a tremendous opportunity that we leapt at to go see another part of the world and get some new experiences.
Was it big as far as design change? Because I would think in Singapore you had more opulent type, more colorful types of designs. And then London is such a more stoic, traditional area. Do you bring the influences from one country to another, or do you start with what the expectation is where you are?
I think it's a lot like whenever you do any design project, it's all about the region or all about the location. You're absolutely right. The design approach in Asia is completely different from what we know in the West. That's driven not only by taste, but it's also driven by economics. Labor costs that factor into construction costs are a completely different dynamic, as is the material resources. So there's this sort of idea, you're right, of opulent tastes in Asia, but that's fueled by an equally less expensive labor market and a less expensive material market, if you will. London, surprisingly, is not very stoic, as you might imagine. They are doing really top-notch, high-end design, but they're doing it in a different way, I would say, almost like an industrial chic. I don't know if this is quite the right word, but there's a celebration of craft that shows up in a lot of London projects. So the detailing is very focused on connections, lots of brass, lots of metal, still lots of marble and unique finishes. I think there's a layering is a good way to describe it in London projects that is very rich. And I personally have embraced that myself. And this idea that we have from modern design, less is more. That was everything. Everything was less is more, less is more. And now the philosophy over there is definitely more is more. Right. And it's great as far as I'm concerned. I really enjoy in hospitality seeing that layering of the design process.
I can tell you, to me, when I'm involved in any sort of design, whether it be my home or whatever, I agree. More is more. I'm not one of these people that just like to have a bare place like that. So you said something going back just a moment or two ago, that the materials are less expensive in Asia. Is that strictly because of the Asian labor to produce them?
I think so. I think so. I mean, we would see, you know, examples of Italian marble that somehow it boggles the mind, right? You can take Italian marble out of the mountain in Italy, put it on a boat to go to China to be cut, polished, and processed, and then shipped back to Italy, because that's less expensive to do than to take it out of the mountain and process it in Italy itself. And we see that kind of thing crop up all the time in terms of how things are processed. I think India was a great example. You know, when I was in India, we used to come out of the toll from the airport. There was a big toll along this long bridge to go into Mumbai. And I was talking to my project manager and saying, oh, you know, there's always this big queue to get out of the airport. You know, I wish they would put in the automated system so you didn't have someone at each toll collecting the money and processing and all that sort of stuff. And she looked at me very serious and said, if we do that, what will we do with all those workers who are working the toll booths at the moment?
So now you're back in the States working on hospitality, and you've got all these influences from different perspectives that you can combine to do something new with. In hospitality, are you looking in your projects at off-the-shelf type products, or are more of your products custom?
You know, it's funny. So I am very practical sometimes about my design. I think a lot of junior designers, and myself included in the good old days, you know, we think bespoke, 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 or custom, 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 as you say here in the States. And the truth is that isn't always the right application. And I really like products often that are kind of already off the shelf and don't require a lot of customization. One, because of the cost of time and money to do custom work. And two, because even though we do something custom and it looks fabulous and great, there are certain instances where after we leave the project, our owners have to inherit that project and maintain it. And so if you do too many custom projects, too many bespoke items, when something goes wrong, and it does, repairing it, fixing it, replacing it becomes quite troublesome. You know, the first time you order in it, you're ordering 500,000 square feet, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But when you go to fix it and you need a custom tile for only 25 square feet, it becomes very difficult to get that replacement at times.
Well, so we make sure people buy attic stock when they do customs. But, you know, you never even know with that. They go, well, what's the recommended amount? And we say, I don't know, you know, anywhere between 5 and 15% is right. Usually what we say. But, you know, all it takes is something to go wrong, a little flood or a little accident. And even, you know, if they had 15%, that's not enough.
And you have to think as well about the staff changes. You know, that stuff gets put in a warehouse in the back or in a storeroom down in the garage. And the director of engineering leaves at some point, and then no one just remembers, well, there's these boxes and they've always been there, but we haven't opened them up. So no one knows what's inside and what's going on.
Let me ask you a question. So what kind of materials or design style actually attracts you?
You know, I don't have a set style, I would say. Aside from, I think as we talked about kind of layering, I like a lot of texture. I like a lot of wood tones to warm things up. I love custom carpet. You know, I think things like cork flooring, they're doing amazing cork flooring these days that it just has such a soft feel underfoot. And it, you know, it sort of went out of fashion for a bit, but now I think it's coming back, and they're doing such incredible things with it. It's really quite good. And it has an environmental story, right? Like that's becoming, it's been more and more, but it continues to be an important factor in our design decisions is what's the environmental story? How is this gonna play out with consumers and guests in the space?
But you know, at Summit, we work with resilient and carpet products. And when you go to cork, we work with Granor Cork out of Portugal. And one of the things that we do now is paint cork. One of the other things that we do is digitally print cork. So when you want a look like, when you want a wood look, we can do a wood look in cork. And you're absolutely right. It's naturally antimicrobial, along with the sound dampening and the safety issues and everything else to get recyclable, actually biodegradable. And we have cork even behind us on the wall.
Oh, hold on. Not just this piece of cork. The whole wall. Entire wall that you see, our backdrop is cork.
Yeah, well,
it's great. And you know what? As I told you before, Ryan, you didn't know where we were going to go with this thing. You just started talking about cork flooring, and that's one of the things we do and specialize in. So, of course, we had to just jump that in.
Yeah, so you can get thick textures for walls, or you can get thinner product like what's behind us, but there's so much variety, and you can do custom even for not a lot of quantity. So cork is a great thing. We work with carpet products that we wind up with a lot of bespoke or custom size rugs cut from our broadloom. And almost everything that we get into today, we look at how does it affect the earth? You know, we're recycling, recyclable, or
well, just going back,
sustainable, renewable.
And just going back to cork flooring, cork is completely a renewable energy. It grows back. It's harvested every 9 years.
Exactly.
So, you know, so it's very green. It's very it's got all these attributes about it.
And we found that not just cork, but through the products, through our product range, what is sound dampening has become very important. Architects are putting larger scale open space areas, and sound dampening products seem to be, we're asked more and more about sound ratings and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that texture. I mean, I think when you talk about materials, what I look for, it's not necessarily the material itself. I think what draws me to so many things is actually texture. You know, just getting things with a bit of roughness to them. So not everything is flat and polished, you know, things that catch the light or catch the eye. And it just kind of all goes to this idea of layering. Even things like cornice moldings. You know, I think our style currently is to not do cornice moldings anywhere, because you say that you want a cornice and people think it's this art, you know, what is it, egg and dart, you know, curved fixture. Even if you just do a square profile with a couple of layers to it, the way that the light catches that transition at the ceiling, it adds to the detail and depth of the design. And similar to what that product is on the wall, you know, just anything with that kind of texture, when you have these walls, you don't have to overly detail it, but you want these materials that speak to a richness and depth of the design, and that really enhances the space.
We couldn't agree more. Some of our carpet products are of high luster to look like a silk kind of effect.
Yeah.
But they're nylon, so they'll wear and they can actually be walked on and used. And we offer products that you can do stock or custom designs in everything from the cut piles that look like silk to a flat weave with texture.
Oh,
so
wow, that's great.
We offer both bespoke and we offer off-the-shelf designs in lots of different things. I think we're speaking the same language. We're getting to know each other. One of the things that Summit does that we really specialize in is finding products that are unique and different that you just don't find everywhere else. That doesn't always mean we're budget oriented. I mean, we're reasonable for what we offer, but we do look for unique and different. And to what you said, high luster, textures, just something that attracts David's attention is going to have not a commodity type product.
And you listen, we're here to talk to you today, but sorry, you brought up something and we just have to.
No, it's good.
We're excited about our products.
I'm just like you, though. I like to find unique products like that, but, you know, things that are not necessarily custom, but things that are very different and very textural. All right, enough on the products right now. Let me just ask you quickly. I understand that you've done quite the project in the Maldives. Care to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, it's a project that's near and dear to my heart, I have to say. This was my last project before I left Singapore. And I joined up with a landscape company that was sitting in the developer's office in Singapore. And so they used to do the planning for these islands. And Maldives was a virgin island. There was nothing on that island. And they've added 25 overwater villas like you're showing there, as well as another 20 so villas on the actual island itself. And it was an amazing learning experience, an amazing design experience. The owner was absolutely amazing. He was so supportive. He had a vision of what he wanted, but he was very enthusiastic to share his passion with us as a design team. And when you talk about kind of dream clients, he's definitely a dream client. He had me come out to the Maldives. He owns 4 or 5 other resorts already. Stayed at his one resort to understand the Maldives. I'd never been there before. Put me on a speedboat, took me around to his other resorts to see how they were doing things, how their designs were looking. One of the things he was really passionate about is what you see in a lot of magazines, what you see in a lot of imagery, is this idea of the all-white beach-washed resort in the Maldives. And what he said to me was, that's not the real Maldives. The Maldives is colorful. If you go to Malé, the capital, they are bright, vivid colors. And he wanted to bring that character into this, this island. And so that's why you're seeing these sort of bright fuchsias, bright magentas, turquoises and teals, things of that nature. He wanted to celebrate that kind of culture of the Maldives. So I got to work on this project. I got to do, you know, how often do you get to do site visits on a tropical island to review a model room?
Please, I'm looking at these images right now on the screen, and I'm completely jealous of the perks that you have versus the perks that we get.
I tell you, and this is an example, just going back to the very beginning. You know, I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which, you know, I mean, Baton Rouge has done some things, but it is not exactly a claim to fame per se. And I have a degree in interior design, which again is not exactly one of the top 10 that you might expect to sort of take you places. And I've been so fortunate because that degree from Louisiana State University, from Baton Rouge, I've managed to go to Singapore. I'm doing work in the Maldives. It landed me in London. It's now put me into Scottsdale. I think it's a testament to, you know, you want to find something that is your passion, and that if that is the case, it can really take you places and do more for your life than you may have ever expected. Well,
listen, again, it's wonderful to have that perks. And you said something that rings a bell for me. It hits home. If you do something that you truly like, then every day when you get up, you're not going to work. It's something that, you know, Mark and I travel the world too. Not lately, but we have been for quite some time, and we enjoy working with vendors and clients all around the world. I must tell you, we don't have a project like that in the Maldives to go visit. But perhaps if you're working on another project like that in the future and you need some specialty floor covering, we could just travel and do that together.
Absolutely. I will absolutely keep you in mind for sure. I think that project was, sorry, I was just going to say that project, I mean, design-wise, it was a really passion project as well, but it was a big learning experience. If you think about this small island, when I say small, you can walk this island in 15 minutes. You could walk around the perimeter in 15 minutes. Wow. There was nothing on it. And I mean, this is a Maldivian specialty, you know, because they develop all of these little islands that they have. You have to bring out a labor force that lives on the island. So they build these floating dorms that are on pontoons that come off the island, and they have dorms where the staff live. Every stick, every brick, every tile, every single thing has to be brought by boat to that island. And then every piece of scrap, waste, debris, whatever that you don't use has to be taken off that island as well. And so there's these series of huge ferries that are running around between the islands, collecting rubbish and making deliveries on a set schedule to keep this all running along in a smooth way. And it's just it's an amazing experience in terms of how you build something at such a remote location.
While we're looking at the pictures, I just looked over to Mark and said, we need to get there.
You absolutely do.
I love seeing the excitement. As you can see, the couple of times I even touch a product while we're talking, I get so excited about the product itself. And I'm always enthralled at the things we find, because you think you're in floor covering. I've seen it all before. And then you find something new. Dave and I travel. We go somewhere, we see something that catches our eye and go, well, how do they do that? What's this? And we get to learn new things and get excited about new products. And then we get to talk to people like yourself and say, look at this. It's awesome. It's crazy. You need to use this. Yeah. So we feel the same thing, and we get excited just the same. And it does make the days go by quickly.
Well, I think you touch on something that's really interesting. And it's certainly a challenge in our industry. But the truth is, we are only as good as our last project, right? We can do a whole series of great projects, and unfortunately, if you do something that is not as great, that's the one people remember. So you're always have a pressure and a challenge to yourself and to your team to strive for something new. And within that, as you say, clients, you know, sophisticated clients are developing, and big operators especially, you know, they're developing how many hotels per per year, right? They're seeing products and they're seeing designs from all across the world and all across the nation. We're always looking for that next new idea.
Well, I have to say, one of the things that you seem to have hit the nail on the head with is bringing the interior and exterior together. I'm looking at your use of color, but I'm also watching how you're blending the interiors to the region or to the area where you are. You're bringing in those turquoise colors in some of the pictures that we looked at today, and you're seeing open space that is usable outdoor space combined with the indoor space. And
absolutely.
Yeah, it looks like you developed almost a niche like that.
It is. And, you know, these resort projects are very interesting in terms of challenging the typical model for interior design relationships as well. So, you know, the old days, let's say, we'll call them the old days, interior designers, you know, we picked out furniture and we picked out pillows and we did some paints. And architects were, you know, they were in charge of everything. And that's been changing over time as the interior design professional has matured. But when you get to resort projects, that line of the sort of contract responsibilities and the obligations between the different trades, it absolutely has to blend. It doesn't do any good to not fully understand the landscape design at that project if you're not paying attention to the architecture, the landscape, and the interior design all together. You're not going to have a successful project. And clients pick up on teams that are able to cross those borders and push back. And sometimes there's a little friction, but often there's a lot of collaboration. So if you go out to the landscape area and you say, hey guys, this is, you know, we're looking at this kind of planning exercise. We're looking at this kind of area. What can we do with the landscape to work with that? You know, it's not just that we picked out furniture and the landscape team picked out the paving and they picked out the planting. It's no, we need to look at this together because it all interacts. And the lines between the trades really blur on resort projects, especially because the architecture, the interiors and the landscape and the lighting, they all have to be seamless because just like that photo shows there, when it's all open, you want to feel like it's one extension of the design and not various spaces broken up.
Well, you've obviously had to learn more about product than just color as well, because, for example, you can't go into a high humidity area and put down wood. So, like same as us, we have a wood look product that won't buckle or curl in hot yoga studios. You've had to learn more about the makeup of the product than you did in the earlier days, the older days of your career when you were just picking out pillows.
Exactly. It's no longer just picking out pillows and paint colors, and you have to know about, you know, how they're going to perform in their environment.
You know, when I first got here to Summit, I had to tell a designer whose client had already approved the product that they could not use it. And I explained why and sent substitution products. None were picked. We lost the project, but we saved that designer from getting into it after the sale problem. And we have to know more today than we've ever had to know. All
right. So before we end the show, I want to ask you a little bit about Monogram BBGM. Tell us why Monogram.
So I actually have a somewhat long history with Monogram. Our office, our design principal is an extraordinary woman named Catherine Mickle. She's been with the company for many, many years. She actually worked with BBGM in the early days in Washington, D.C. She's since moved on and had an amazing career and now finds herself back with BBGM through Monogram. I interviewed with Catherine when I was leaving university many years ago in Washington, D.C. And at the time, I knew I wanted to do interior design, and I got this opportunity. I met with Catherine, and she started describing to me what you do as a hospitality designer. And she's saying, well, we got to do the drapery, and we need to pick out the place settings. We need to pick out the glassware. You know, when we're doing the restaurants, we're involved in all this. And I was a young lad, and I thought, oh, no, I want to be like an interior architect. This is what I don't want to pick out forks and knives or whatever. And so I dumbly didn't pursue the opportunity very far. Fast forward through many years and evolution and learning and growing and, well, a few more gray hairs than I may like. And when it was time to come back to the States, through a peer at BBGM in DC, I reached out and said, hey, I'm coming back to the States. You know, do you have anything going on? He put me in touch with Catherine, and it just so happens that they had an opportunity come up in the Scottsdale office. I was looking at Seattle. I was looking at Denver. I was looking at Washington, D.C. Arizona wasn't even on the radar. But after reading about Monogram, after speaking with Catherine and seeing her passion and understanding the role, I thought this is an amazing opportunity. And between you and me, I would say as well, coming from gray London to sunny Scottsdale, it proved to be a no-brainer. So Monogram is a boutique interior design firm. It's a division within BBGM. So BBGM does a lot of great hospitality work, a lot of hospitality architecture, and we assist that team when necessary. But as Monogram, we also pursue our own opportunities and partner with other architects and designers on projects around the nation. And that gives us a lot of flexibility, but also gives us a lot of focus. We really are dedicated to hospitality design, and that comes through in everything we do.
You've really come full circle. You're back into warm weather, and we wish you well in your new responsibilities.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Well, listen, Ryan, we thank you very much for being part of our show today. We will be in touch with you, as you could well expect. Thank you very much. Best of luck to you at Monogram.
Mark, David, Rocco. I didn't get to say hello to Rocco, but I know he's there.
How about you called Rocco? Hold on.
Oh, there you go.
Rocco is part of our program week after week. He used to be wedged behind me before we had the studio designed, on that note, by TPG in New York. We had a studio design, but prior to that, we were sitting on these old, big, brown, ugly chairs that I had when in an apartment years ago, and I was able to fit Rocco next to me. You didn't even know it. He just occasionally he would lift his head up from the side of my leg and just put it on my lap like that, and then disappear again.
He doesn't share our excitement.
Yeah, but it's kind of like I almost feel empty in this room when we're doing a broadcast without him next to me. And as you can see, or as you had seen, he's out like a light. He's curled up.
That's okay. Even when they're there, you know they're there. It makes a big difference. So it's great.
Yeah, and I really do hope Linda and Lisa in Dallas are watching them, because they ask me for more camera time for Rocco on a regular basis. Those are our reps in Texas. Ryan, thank you very much. We'll be in touch with you shortly. And thank you again for being part of the show.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Sign off. Everyone, please remember, samples can be ordered at info@summit-flooring.com or by our toll-free number, 877-496-3566. Give us a call anytime with questions or sample requests.
And next week, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, you will see another episode, or listen to another episode on podcast of Summit Live. We thank you very much for being part of our program. Everyone have a great day.